We're going to use the pen tool, which is the vector area of Photoshop, and we've got the shape layer selected. If we had the path layer selected, we would only make an unstroked, unfilled path, which we could later stroke or fill. We have the path layer and the pen tool, so we'll make a shape. Go to the end. We can go close in, and when I told you about working the pen tool, I told you you can go here. These are either adding a point, deleting a point, converting a point. The black arrow will select the whole item and move it around. The white arrow, the direct selection tool, will select individual points. And when you select the individual points, you can, if it's a curve point, you can move the little handles to kind of shape the point a little bit. There is no smooth tool in Photoshop. It's just in Illustrator, so you have to do your best to kind of smooth these points out. Okay, now once you create a vector layer like you see over here, if you want to change the color, you do not click on the color chips. You click here on the layer, and you can change the color here. You see? And once you, if I hit the black arrow tool now, I can click the whole thing. I can put the bounding box on. I can click the corner, and I can lock the height and width over here, and I can make it a little bit smaller and say OK with the check. Take off the bounding box, and I can go to Edit and define a custom shape. I want to make my own custom shape. So here it is. I can name it. There's my custom shape, and I will back up and click off. I can throw this shape out. Okay, add a layer. I've got my shape tool here, and I've got my vector selected, not my fill pixels. And I go here to the different shapes, and I go to the very end, and there's the shape that I made. And I can make my custom shape. Now, do you see how each one of these had its own layer? I'm going to go backward, 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 backward. Okay, and I'm going to make a shape, and then see how I have this? This is on one layer, and that's create a new shape layer, and this is add to the shape layer. And if I add to the shape layer, it's on the same shape layer. I can change the color here of the shape layer, and now this is subtract from the shape area. So I will hit this, and it subtracts that from the shape area. This is intersect with the shape area. Intersect, and I only have that small space over there, and here's one new one. There it is. I made another new one, and this would be exclude overlapping shape areas. So that's exclude overlapping shape areas. So these are some shape tools, and any of these shape areas, whenever you get these vector shapes and you want to convert these into pixels, into raster, you just right click and say rasterize layer, and now they're converted into pixels. But that's how you make a custom vector shape. And remember, you have loads of shapes up here, loads and loads of shapes to pick from. These vector shapes when you make them. Let's see what's up here. There's scissors and crowns and hands and kind of a grass, and some of the libraries are already up here. Here's all the different libraries that come with Photoshop. And again, anything that you pick, you can either append, add to what you have, or replace. And when you make something, it will come the first time the color of your chip, but then you can change it either by clicking on the layer and getting a color chip, or up here on the tool option bar you can click and you can change it this way. And to move it around, you use the black arrow tool over here, not the move tool, the black arrow tool over the pen tool. To make modifications, you can make modifications to it by selecting the white arrow tool, and you can adjust, and you can make this shape from the library your own custom shape. And then you can, after you modify it and change it to be something completely, almost completely different than what it originally was, you can select it and you can make a new custom shape of it. So you can use the shapes that were there, and then you can, I'll go to the bottom, and you should see it. There it is. There it is on the bottom. Now I have two layers, and the reason I have two layers is because I have this first new shape layer selected. If I want to add to it, I'll go back, undo, step backward, and I'll select add to it, add to the layer, and now I've added to this shape layer here. So that's how you make custom vector shapes. And to change them into pixels, right click, rasterize, right click, rasterize. That's how you change vector shapes into raster pixelized shapes. So this is a little bit more about how you use the custom shape tool to make your own customized shapes.